Today, I have something really special, and it really begs the question now that since games have so many super well done textures, multi movement controls, and just have progressed overall so far, how can a game that revolutionized the gaming space 26 years ago hold up today? Now, I wanted to challenge myself as someone who has never played Half Life. Can I come into this game and still think it's one of the greatest of all times, as so many others do? So, will this flashback in time really cause me to lose my cool, or will my years of gaming prepare me for this moment? And honestly, spoiler alert, I struggled a lot from this, getting lost from the map to just not fully understanding how to use the controls, but I don't think anything will ever compare to this poor guy's lunch. And yeah, I kind of feel bad about that one.
My God, what are you doing?
Now, for the actual game itself, we're going to hit a new game, and I chose the medium difficulty for this playthrough. I felt like it was going to give me the most challenge, not be too easy for me, not be too hard, because, like I said before, I've never played Half Life. And this is one thing where I should have probably done that training room before hitting start.
And welcome to the Black Mesa transit system.
Now we start off with the 5-minute tram ride, just going through the research facility in the underground base and seeing the different areas that maybe we'll be able to explore later on.
Time is 8:47 a.m.
Now, after our joyride in the tram for about 5 minutes, we learned that basically we've kind of slept in because we might have been partying a little bit too hard last night with a friendly guard who's just going to help us get out of the tram.
Morning, Mr. Freeman. Looks like you're running late.
Now, after the helpful assistant of the guard letting us down the elevator into the lab, we are presented with another guard that looks identical to him, which kind of confused me at first.
Freeman, I had a bunch of messages for you, but we had a system crash about 20 minutes ago, and I'm still trying to find my files. Just one of those days, I guess. They were having some problems down in the test chamber, too, but I think that's all straightened out. They told me to make sure you headed down there as soon as you got into your hazard suit.
So that's where we needed to go next. We needed to find our hazard suit. While I was on the adventure of finding my hazard suit, you might notice this guy right here. Now, I should have known better to go down this hallway and kind of re-adventure into this area. I never ended up doing that. I actually ended up just going a completely different direction and following the story. And little did I know that this guy was actually going to appear quite often in the future. Continuing my exploration led me to this small kitchen where I found a microwave that I could press buttons, and I got a little too excited with that.
God, what
And
are you doing?
unfortunately, I ruined this guy's lunch in the process, which I thought was hysterical at the time. And at the same time, I also found out that vending machines can give you sodas, which was going to be very useful later on. I also like that the scientist is basically just looking at his lunch like, how did this go so wrong?
Simulation was
While continuing my exploration, it led me into this locker room where I realized I didn't know what my actual name was of my character. It took me a little bit to actually figure it out. I was hoping that the scientist would actually call me by name.
into a
He never
facility.
did. And then it was at some point that it just kind of clicked. I was like,
Yeah,
I think I read
you guys
Freeman
are
somewhere. And that is where the locker we needed to get into. So now we've got our locker. Next, we need to get our suit. After a couple of detours later, here we are at our suit. Now, once I picked up the suit, we now finally have a HUD, and I turned into a button clicking menace at this point. I figured out that I could interact with quite a bit of stuff in this game, which was kind of surprising to me at first. So I was just trying to hit anything and everything I could, turning on this hand dryer and just annoying everybody in the bathroom itself. After finishing up in the bathroom, we find our friend, the security guard, who's going to let us through these doors so that we can continue on. While navigating the hallways and another elevator, I did find this ladder here, which I learned that I can climb up. I wasn't sure if I would be able to, but I did soon learn that getting on these ledges up here after a ladder can be kind of tricky, where I almost die right there. So that is going to be a definite learning curve here as we continue the game. As I stopped trying to fall into the elevator shaft, I did find some more scientists down in the hallway doing scientific things, and our friend the security guard here
here. I'll buy you a beer.
decided to buy us a beer, but I'm pretty sure he might be the Flash with the way he is able to get through this facility 1,000 times faster than I ever could. Now, I was soon presented to this think tank of special scientists here where they talk about how the sample has been delivered and also that the administrator is very worried about something. So, could that be the figure that we saw earlier in the hallway? I'm not sure at this point, but we'll find out. After the think tank was done discussing whatever they wanted to discuss, we did move on and we found out that the hallway is just slowly just getting self-destructed here. It seems like the computers are blowing up, there's glass shards just falling from the sky. So instead of just helping them out, I think I'm just going to move on. doesn't seem like my kind of work. After going down the elevator and down a hallway, I decided to find the scientist here working at the machine and just constantly bombard him with a bunch of questions until he finally just told me to leave him alone. So apparently, you can annoy people to a certain extent. Further down into the corridor, I did run across the two scientists who are explaining the experiment, and they're talking about how we have the most purest sample, but it could also be the most unstable that they've tried to test yet. After a lengthy discussion about the experiment itself, we're presented into the test chamber, and it was a little bit of a startup. And here I am trying to just attempt to put in the sample, apparently. And it's just a slow go. I wasn't completely sure about the controls themselves. And we can see almost instantly that things are not going as well as they should. We're being told to just watch out. Things are starting to explode. And I'm pretty sure those guys just got electrocuted, so that should be interesting. After a little bit more chaos here, we're just instantly zapped into the darkness. I thought maybe the game had crashed at this point, and we can see it's black. Like you don't really know what's going on. After a few more seconds, we're back into the game here, into the test chamber, and then poof, we're on a different world, I'm assuming, with some creepy monsters. I thought maybe I was gonna get attacked there, and we're instantly zapped again into the darkness, and now more monsters that I'm assuming that I'll have to fight later on. And one more time into the darkness, we can see that the game had saved, and I was assuming at least everything was loading correctly. I wasn't sure if this, this being an old game or not, if things had just crashed, but we can see chaos has just basically wreaked havoc across this whole facility. Our test chamber is completely done, and this guy is bleeding out, and I'm just confused on where to go at this point. Moments later, I can see that the door is attempting to open, and it finally does open, and we can see our friend, the security guard, is not doing so well. Hopefully, the doc is able to, help him up. But you know what? I can't seem to do anything here, so I'm just gonna move on. And things are just chaotic as possible. Now, I did find funny that there isn't a whole lot of different characters here, and a lot of them just kind of repeat. But it looks like our friends here didn't get zapped to death in with the electricity bolt like I thought maybe they would. But they do look kind of injured, and that computer is still kind of broken. But here we're being told that we need this guy to open up the door. And honestly, this is where the struggles really began, because getting these people to follow you is like a giant nightmare. I don't know if I was doing something wrong at this point or not, but I spent probably a good 15 minutes trying to get this guy to just walk with me. And we're also presented with our first glimpse at some of the aliens. And then I did notice that this guy is dead on the other side of the room. He's right here talking to me. He's dead right there. He's right there talking to me, and he's dead. I was extremely confused at this point. Still confused on how to open up that next door. I did end up going back downstairs to talk to the scientist, and it looked like our friend, the security guard, is actually back up and running. So that is great because he still owes me a beer, and I am going to make sure that he pays his debt. And like I said, about 15 minutes later of running around like a goose on the loose, I did see that I finally got into this room here, which was great because I was starting to get a little frustrated. But as you can see, this lightning is still just like shooting through this room. So I wasn't quite sure how to just avoid that. That little alien is trying to come out of its vial, and I was like, nah, I think I'm out of here. So we just continue to make our way through the facility. At this point, I am just dodging lasers. I finally find a crowbar, and again, I'm stumped by a damn door. Like, this is a common theme throughout the game for me, unfortunately, because these doors and the physics, I wasn't quite ready for the amount of physics in this kind of game. I remember reading about it and how it was such a great thing at the time. I couldn't figure out how to get through a door, but I did want to take some revenge on these little alien guys because I finally had a weapon to whoop their ass with. So that was kind of fun. Instantly just one hit that thing. I was just checking every computer, thinking there was some sort of computer button that I was missing to maybe turn off the lasers and open the door. Until I got the smart idea to just keep bashing the door, and then I was thinking to myself, what about the glass? Maybe I can just smack it, and I just kind of accidentally did it, and I was realizing that yes, you can break the glass, you can crouch through these, so that was very fun. And I think I just killed those two scientists on accident because I didn't mean to hit the button, but we just watched them die in their Tower of Terror death. Now, continuing on, I finally find our security guard. I don't know if this is the same one or not, but he's got a pistol and he's starting to shoot things, but he's going to also help me out. So I decided to just use him as a human shield since he had, I'm assuming, unlimited ammo to shoot these guys. And they're a little bit bigger than the little monsters that I was fighting prior. Continuing the way I came in and back to the kitchen where that poor guy's lunch is now burnt. I had come to these vending machines and wondered if they would actually heal me. And this is when I learned, yes, they do. One at a time, and you can use them to heal yourself since it seemed like health packs and that kind of thing were going to be a little bit harder to find. So I was happy enough to just sit here and constantly drink the sodas. After a small lunch break, I decided to continue through the air vents here, where I watched a scientist battle out with a little alien here, thinking he had won, but really they got the upper hand on him, and, well, that kind of sucks for him. I don't know why the ceiling just kind of crashed, but I tried to open the door to save him, and even the glass, but apparently this glass is not breakable. After walking through a bunch of empty rooms, I did stumble across into this hallway where the security guard is kind of injured, and I think he just died. But in his expense, I get a pistol, which I was pretty happy about. I finally have a weapon other than a crowbar that I've been using to beat every door, apparently. So we'll see how well this pistol actually works. And this is when we're presented with the little, like, four-legged creatures that just like to run at you. And I wasn't sure how many bullets or what the proper weapons were going to be to use to take those guys out. Yeah, so continuing on to the deeper, darker tunnels, I came across this ladder and was just basically like, nope, not dealing with those guys right now. But then a little part of me was like, you have to. So I came up here with the crowbar, hit the wrong thing and exploded, and it was like, maybe that's enough for today. So I continued on the following day. Now, day number 2, I was still moving through the hallways pretty slowly, fighting enemies where I could, but I finally did stumble across an armory, which was really helpful. And I had found some grenades and additional ammo, which was great. Now, I did finally get my first aid, like wall pack, which was great because I was only running on 20 health. And most of this game early on, I didn't understand how to get health, what enemies I should be using certain weapons with. But this guy is still alive somehow. And, you know, he's a trooper, man. That's all I have to say. The enemies did keep changing up here, and we first see our, like, weirdo electrical shooty guy here. I keep trying to take him out. I probably should have used the grenade here, but it seemed like the pistol actually worked pretty well, so I wasn't going to complain. We had plenty of health, we had plenty of ammo, so we were in a good position. And I was about to fall through this hole when the little guy tried to jump scare me here, but luckily I was up above. And then I turn the corner and another one tries to jump scare me. So of course I'm starting to get skeptical about moving around any corner, but it's right at this moment when I start to realize that they're going to start to hide stuff in like little corners and such, and I can see that there's a health pack. I'm trying to get to it because health seems to be super important, and I was struggling to stay at 100% throughout this early game. After falling through the pipe, I did learn that my guy needed to go for a swim because he's been hard at work beating things down and shooting a bunch of guns, so he probably smells like gunpowder and sweat at this point. And we really needed to get out of here, so we just simply, I actually just kind of stumbled across the grate. Wasn't even sure if I'd be able to open it, but luckily I was, and naturally there's just more monsters around every corner that you go to in this. Continuing on, I did find a giant lever that naturally I had to pull, but I wasn't sure what it actually did. I mean, it seemed like an elevator, it seemed pretty straightforward, but my mind, I was sitting here, oh, I need to shoot the little guys, not realizing the elevator is actually leaving me behind. So I decided to go chase it down the hill. Luckily, I didn't take too much damage, but I was trying to see what else was further down, and, you know, naturally I just killed my guy off very easily. So this is going to be a common theme, constantly needing to save, constantly needing to reload. But now I was a little bit more wiser. I knew that once I hit the lever, I needed to get on that platform as soon as possible. And after reaching the bottom and fighting off a few enemies, I decided to just test to see if I could break the boxes. Learned that I could, and that was going to be the start of my box breaking career, because after a little bit, I realized that there's actually some goodies in some of these, so I tested almost every box in the game that I would come across after this. Further into the tunnels, I am now presented with a new enemy, but at the time I thought maybe they were just kind of like rope swings or something. So naturally I decided, oh, okay, like I can just jump on the rope. Quickly realized that it was pulling me to my impending doom, decided to shoot it, and naturally it was too high, so it just killed me anyway. So, lessons learned as I progressed through this. And then we're presented with our first little parkour event. The game had already kind of presented the controls to be a little bit finicky to me. Like I felt like you just kind of would move naturally just a little bit more than you should. But I had some luck and I was able to just kind of slowly leap to one box to another. Now, after another elevator ride here, hoping it didn't turn into the Tower of Terror like I saw those other scientists get, I was presented in this horror-themed little facility, which was starting to get a little bit creepy. There's some lightning, there was a body that got ripped up into the ceiling, so I figured nothing good is going to come here quickly, and I did notice that these little guys, they just kept coming. And you do see another vending machine, which I was pretty happy with, but we also see another scientist get ripped up into the ceiling, so maybe there's new creepy monsters we're gonna have to fight shortly. Now, I was channeling my inner John McClane here from Die Hard for a little while, and we watched the scientist get killed again, but as you can see, I have 25 health, and we're sitting on top of our favorite little vending machine, so I'm going to spend the next little bit hopefully getting some more health. And we can see there's little cockroaches and stuff like that, and I also didn't want to get tangled up with this guy that was going to try to rip me up into the ceilings. So I spent the next couple minutes here just healing myself the most I could. After my small snack break, I decided to go further into the facility, and this is a time when I realized I had picked up the shotgun actually previously and didn't really realize it. So I was like, let's try it out and see how good it actually is. And I was trying to kill this guy inside this door, couldn't open the door, was just trying to whack it open, anything I possibly could do, because I figured maybe there was some good loot in there. And to no avail, I was able to kill this guy here, but never to be able to get into that room. Now, after some more running around, I did realize that there's some monsters down here, but then also something was killing this guy super quickly as soon as he came around the corner, and that's when I noticed that there's a turret. So I tried to shoot as much as I could, avoiding as much damage as possible. It took a little while, but I was able to take it out, and I realized that that's probably going to be our new enemy that we're going to have to kind of worry about. So I decided to take the shotgun out, bunch of little guys here, and my aim with this shotgun never seemed to really click. The pistol worked out pretty well. The crowbar was okay. But that shotgun, man, that thing made me look like a fool throughout the game. After checking a little bit further in the hallway, I did return back, and my career as a box breaker did continue because, like I said, I'm going to break basically every box that I came across after that first set down that elevator. Now, exhausted from box breaking, I did stumble across this office where two scientists were actually leaving me behind, which all I have to say is a bunch of jerks right there. They didn't even bother. They were just, I'm out. So I guess I'm on my own to fight all the monsters in the hallway. Now, after fighting on that floor, I found this staircase, which is pretty much a staircase from hell. As you can see, there's a bunch of enemies at the top of the stairs, and then also on top of everything, there's a turret that has its own little window that can shoot me and them all at the same time. So that's going to be fun to take out. After finally dominating the machine, I tried to blow up this explosives box because I was a little worried it was going to blow up. After the first shot, it didn't do anything, so I decided maybe a crowbar would do something, and naturally it did. It just blew me up instead. So after battling a few more rooms full of enemies, I did stumble across this room, and I couldn't figure out where to go after eliminating all the enemies. And then I finally figured out, oh yeah, I was able to break glass. I could probably break wood planks to open up this door, and naturally that's exactly what I needed to do. That hallway led me into this fridge area where I'd taken out all the enemies, was still unsure where to go, and it seemed to be every room I was getting confused on where I actually needed to go, until I realized, oh yes, there is a ladder right here, maybe I need to go up and then walk around in the vents. So that's exactly what I did. Those vents led me to this little contraption here where I did not judge the timing right, and it actually got me caught where I couldn't actually leave for a few seconds until I kind of wiggled myself out. So it really is some extreme timing that you need to hit at some points in this game. Now, stumbling my way through the facility, still lost most of the time, I did stumble across this door where, as you'll see in a second, this guy, again, appears out of nowhere just to kind of flex on me that he's safe and sound while I'm continuously battling for my life. So I tried to break the window, still couldn't, and just watched him walk to safety. Now, shortly after, I found myself into another elevator shaft here where this guy was actually dangling, and I was gonna try to help him out if I could, but then I listened to him just drop to his death. So naturally, I was gonna do the same thing he did, jump to this ladder where I caught it and was able to pull myself up. Now, I finally reached the security room where I watched the scientist try to flag down the security guy while he just got attacked. He did get a few good punches in there, but he did get dragged into the vents where I don't think he's going to live. And then the scientist just suddenly disappeared on me and was dead down the hallway pretty fast. Now, I kind of messed up here by hitting the fire alarm here, not realizing that the door was going to close on me and I was going to be trapped in here for a while before I could reopen the door. So that was fun. And be aware, if you guys play this game, don't do that if you're not going to go down the hallway first. Now, after going down that hallway and killing the turret here, it was like Christmas because I was stuck in a room full of boxes, but this time I was not going to be hitting the explosive box because I wasn't trying to blow myself up again. Now, that was short-lived because right here we're going to see that I am just trying to avoid these tripwire claymore things here. And this is the first time I've been presented with them, so I was just trying to dodge them because I figured they were going to blow me up. They looked very explosive, and I'd already blown myself up in many other ways. I didn't need to add this to the list. Now, avoiding these wires here, I realized that I wasn't going to set off any sentries, but you can see our friend, Mr. Suit Guy, was actually up in that hallway again. And this is another time where I was wondering what the hell this guy was or what he was doing, so I was just going to go chase him down. But I got lucky here because I actually tripped the wire but went up the staircase and had it explode but not kill me. In the next room, I did go right here. This guy was running away and I was like, oh, look, a soldier. And then I realized the soldiers are not going to be friendly because why would they be? Everything in this game is trying to kill you. So naturally, I just took him out and was able to save the scientist this time. I was chasing the scientists and then realized that there's going to be multiple troops here, and they killed the scientist before I could save him again. But now I'm fighting off many soldiers, and I wasn't sure if I was going to have to just fight the soldiers or if I was going to have to fight the soldiers and aliens from now on. I was very quick with my answer because as soon as I went beyond where those soldiers were, again, I was running into the aliens. So I figured I was probably going to have to fight both at some point. And these string guys here were about to snag me up. So I just decided to take them out as fast as I could. Here I was deciding whether or not I should be a limbo champion or go down the safe corridor, which probably would lead to my demise anyways. So I decided to go the lesser of the evils here. Rather than blowing myself up, I'd go down in this room and see, as I'm presented with a conveyor belt and a bunch of these string guys again. Following along the path, it led me to another elevator, and this little section right here was going to be my freaking nemesis for a long time because I think I reloaded the game maybe 8-10 times because I didn't understand how to fight these. And I was so low on health half the time just coming up the elevator. You can see I only have 38 health, and I couldn't hit the health pack quick enough because these guys would just rush into the room, throw grenades. The helicopter plane thing would also shoot me as well, so it was really rough. But luckily I did knock it out eventually. After fighting those guys many times, it led me back into the air vents again, channeling my inner John McClane and avoiding air vents because those fans are nasty little things and they will kill you very quickly. After getting lost in the dark, waiting for my batteries to recharge, it did lead me down here to these train tracks where I could drive this little tram, which was kind of cool. And it had different speeds and directions that I could drive it. So it took me a little while to figure out what the controls actually were, but once we were moving, man, were we moving quickly. That led me to a room full of nuclear reactor waste, which was really fun. It's very bright green. We had to balance on these pipes, also while fighting monsters that were trying to shoot at us. Next up, we're in a room... Next up in a room, we opened the door just to find this monster break through the glass and attack the scientist. I thought maybe the scientist would live, but as soon as he tried to crawl away, this thing grabbed him and just ripped him to shreds. After watching a horrific event, I decided I didn't want any part of that and just dipped out. But naturally, this game is going to make you fight everything that you see, and as soon as I turn the corner of another hallway, I'm presented with this guy just banging across the ground as soon as I moved, so I decided to chuck a few nades down. It seemed to scare him off, so maybe that's what I was going to have to do, since the game was going to give me a handful of grenades anyway. Turns out the grenades weren't going to actually kill this guy, but if I moved slowly enough, he didn't seem to attack me. So I figured that maybe they were like a T-Rex. You just kind of had to be quiet and not do a lot of noise. And if you were going to need to run very quickly. Now up next, I was told that I needed to start up the generator. So that led me to this elevator where I was going to have to do a couple different steps of turning on this generator so that we could restore power in the facility. In this quest, it led me to this open room where this little platform was actually going to spin around in the circle, and you had to time the jump or just avoid it in general, but if you misstepped like I did, it would just get you killed each and every time. So you'd have to hit this little platform, it would shoot you over to this ladder here that you could go up, and then you'd be presented with that spinny thing, so you just had to navigate it very, very carefully. Once you navigated the obstacles, you could press the buttons here, but you'll also see that the scientist was up here hiding like a little coward. But you know what? Who can blame him if the aliens have taken over the facility? I'd probably be hiding in some little secure cubby as well, or up on top of this thing where you could just push things off to their certain death. But anyways, I was here for a mission and I was going to complete that mission, and nothing was going to stop me. After toggling those buttons, I was told that I needed to come down here to turn on this fan, and this one took a while. Luckily, I did start to save it. I would either fall off this ledge after turning on the fan, or I'd turn on the fan a little too quickly and not realize I needed to go up the ladder before the fan just killed me anyways. Sometime later, the fan was on and I was above it, and then I realized I could throw a grenade here and it would just fly up and actually blow up all those wooden pieces so that I could reenact my inner Willy Wonka when they're just, having that fizzy soda. And there wasn't a roof full of spikes that was going to kill me. But again, there was more air vents that I was going to have to navigate through. Now, getting my way back up here after the power was returned, I was able to hit this test fire button and hopefully take out this monster. As you can see, I was hiding the best I could so he couldn't get me until the engine could turn on and take him out. And just like that, we finally had taken him out with the rocket. Now that was one big monster taken down, and I stumbled across this room where two soldiers were attacking something in the shadows, and I realized that this was a larger alien that just took out the soldier with basically 1 second of his weapon, and he was probably going to handle this second soldier just as easily, but I was going to have the soldier maybe help him take him down, and then I'd take out the soldier, but that was not the case. This guy was very strong, and I decided to just run away and have the soldier fight him, and maybe the monster would just chase him instead. Now, after running away for a while and fighting some smaller monsters, I did stumble across this room where this guard was dying, but he did leave me a nice little present of a revolver. So I thought maybe this revolver was going to be the thing that could take out that larger guy. And spoiler alert, it wasn't. But I was in this room and I needed to hit that switch anyways, and this guy was hopefully just going to ignore me until I hit the switch, and he turned around instantly and just started shooting me. And as you can see, this pistol really isn't doing a lot for me. Now, turning around and going back further into the tunnels, it did lead me into this area where there was a bunch of soldiers actually, and they'd kind of fortified this little area, so I was going to have to take them out. I was currently using the machine gun that I had found. That was seeming to do pretty good work. I didn't realize at this moment that the revolver was actually going to do much better, but as long as you hit them in the head. Now that led me to this platform here that lowered down into a room that I like call the room of death. We had to kill these two little enemies, but as you can see, there are little motion sensors pretty much anywhere. I was able to jump over this set currently to open up the platform again. I realized that was not the case because I was basically stuck at this point and I couldn't go anywhere. So it took a while. I would say I probably did reload the game maybe 13 times here before I was just successfully able to get through it. Now I was going to have to turn on the power again, and this required turning on some water and also on the power, and I was able to get both of them completed fairly easily. But turning on the power decided to make these lightning bolts between these boxes go off, so I was going to have to dodge those and probably others as I continued on my merry way. But there was fans that I could float again, which was kind of fun. You can just see me just blowing off some steam. I was hard at work, but I was trying to enjoy the game the most I could. Now after turning on the power, I was back up here with this giant guy, and I decided that I was just going to throw a bunch of grenades at him and hopefully kill him that way. After about 5 grenades, I think, I was able to finally get him down, and he just kind of vanished, which was a little weird. After taking him out, I decided to go down another hallway, flipped a switch, and was able to actually get back on my tram here, where we're going to be able to switch the platform to go along the tracks. So we're going to just continue moving on through this underground facility. And we were moving on at quite a speed here, but I was also running this thing pretty slowly at times because I was a little worried we were going to fall around a corner or something and it was going to take off without me and I was going to have to go chase this thing down. Or worse, it was just going to leave me behind and I was going to have to walk through this entire thing myself. Now I was starting to get pretty comfortable with the tram itself. I was slowing it down, stopping it at points, turning it up as fast as it would go, and we were making some great progress. That was when I learned that you could actually get on this MG after I'd taken out all the enemies anyways. I didn't actually need to do that. I could have used the MG to take them out, but it is what it is. I was slowly learning everything that this game would allow me to do, which was great. Now, a little while later, I was back in the offices. I accidentally hit this guy because he wouldn't let me out of this area, and I learned that the security guards will actually attack you if you hit them. So that was a little bumming. I'm really hoping that guy wasn't the guy that actually owed me a beer because I'd be a little sad if that was the case. Now, after beating the guard to death with a crowbar, I learned that there's actually missile launchers in the game, and I was getting comfortable enough with the tram to turn it on low so it would continue on without me, but I could jump back on when I needed. Now this led me to an area and you'll notice that these staircases right here. Now if you played this game you probably know, and if you know, you know. This pissed me off beyond goddamn recognition. Let me just tell you, I was furious at the game. I thought I had to blow him up. I thought I had to shoot him. I thought I had to hit him with a crowbar. I was like, no, you should be able to jump over these stupid boxes. I spent so much damn time in this tunnel trying to figure out where else to go because I was convinced at this point that I could not get over those boxes. Now, if you had played the tutorial, I think the tutorial teaches you how to jump over these boxes. I spent about 40 minutes trying to get over these goddamn boxes in different ways or finding alternate paths that would lead me up to that same area with no avail. It was at this point that I finally got so frustrated that I had to go look up a guide on the internet to try to figure out where I needed to go next. Now, after looking up that clip, it presented me to these boxes where I would need to crouch jump over them, which was very silly in my mind. But boy, was I happy to figure that out. And I just needed to show you guys this clip because I was so excited once I finally got over these boxes. Now, after that success, it brought us further down into the facility where I was actually going to be presented with my first time outside since the helicopter incident with all those soldiers, where I was going to need to take out these two guys relatively quickly, I would assume. And I was like, oh great, the revolver can take these guys out quickly enough that I don't think I'll have any trouble. Now, while yes, taking out those guys was pretty easy, I was trying to get to this health pack because I was already kind of low health, and that's when I started to realize that there was a sniper up into that little camo net up there that was going to kill me before I could ever get the health pack, and this guy was going to be the bane of my existence. I honestly was under the assumption that I couldn't take him out, so I was just trying to avoid him the best I could. At a certain point, I decided I don't need that health pack. I'll take out these two soldiers and just continue on. Continuing on, I did. I was presented to this room where if I tripped any of the sensors, there was actually TNT surrounding the entire room that would explode and just kill me instantly. Luckily, I was able to move the boxes around to be able to jump over these sensors and get around all this so that I could open the door. That led me to this bunker where I could press this button to launch something, and then I realized that I was actually launching a rocket. It was a little hard to see at first because I was trying to get the greatest of angles through that window, but as you can see, there is a rocket that I have basically set off to launch. Now, shortly after, I was presented into this area where there was a tank of water and something swimming in there. This scientist actually tells me that this monster wasn't able to swim in terrestrial waters until recently, but then he also notified me that there would be a trank gun in the cage that I could use to maybe hopefully take it out. He wasn't quite sure at the time. And since I wanted all the weapons, I did go get my trank gun, and then I was waiting for this damn fish to come around so that I could shoot it. It took a few shots to get him down, but eventually he was sleeping, or at least I thought he was sleeping. It seems like this one takes quite a few different hits, and as you can see, I was either taking damage from it, or I was taking the damage from the lack of oxygen. Now by this point, I was a pretty good agile assassin, moving through the map at a relatively great pace, or at least I thought so. I was able to navigate some of these. As you can see, I thought I was doing better than I was, but, you know, it takes time. The controls are a little clunky, I would say. Sometimes you move, but you continue to move. And I know like when you're on ice and stuff or water, especially in that refrigerator room a little while back, you would still slide around. But I thought maybe I could go into the store, and that was not the case, but I was gonna get some of the stuff up on that ledge anyway. Now that brought me to this elevator where I saw this guard and he was trying to tell me some stuff, but then was instantly assassinated. I was about to learn that there was a new set of enemies that I was gonna have to fight, and these guys were no joke. They were little assassin assholes is what I like to call them. And it's about right here where I could realize that I could hear them running around, but I was not ready for the sheer speed at which they could run. But taking them out one by one was eventually able to do so. And I was also learning that the SMG that I had a grenade launcher that I did not realize until I accidentally clicked it and was wondering why that guy just blew up. It had literally taken me this long into the game to learn that that little thing above my ammo was my grenades on my SMG. I don't know how I didn't notice it, but now that I did, I was going to take full advantage of this weapon. Now moving on further in and worrying about whether or not I was going to have to fight more of these little ninja guys, I went into this room where the lights blacked out and I was beaten over the head and kidnapped. Now this is where the game gets a little weird because I tried to do this about 2 or 3 different times and it just kept bugging out on me. So I'm going to fast forward here. You're going to see me, get dragged. We can see the cutscene happen with the soldiers dragging me, all that great stuff. But when I got to this point in the cutscene, it had me stuck. And it wasn't until I looked this up and it actually appears to be some sort of FPS glitch. So I had to manually set this before I was able to continue on and actually get through the cutscene as intended. Now you can see after I did those changes, I was finally released into this room where I did notice that the walls were starting to close in on me like I was in the Star Wars trash compactor. So that was kind of fun. And it was a race to get above all this so I could escape. Now I had a new mission and was trying to get back all my weapons that had gone missing. And now I had a crowbar and that was it. So hopefully I could find a weapon here shortly. Now, luckily, I did find a pistol there, and next I was presented with more... Now, luckily, I was able to find a pistol, and then I was presented with more little parkour jumping things and navigating through small little pipes or air vents as I continued through the facility. Now, that led me to a lab where I actually had another security guard guy with me, which was great, but I did see that there was these tripwires, so I decided to take them out before they took me out. But this led to a chain of events causing this guy to come out and attack me, but me and the security guard were able to take him out with ease. Luckily, there was a second one, but the military guys took him out. I was able to take one of them down with the grenade launcher that now I was actively using, and the other one I just ran down the hall and blasted away. Now, there was a third one as well. I don't know if he was actually the other guy that I thought I killed or not. But it seemed like every room I was in was either monsters or military guys, or sometimes there was both, and they were just inner fighting, and I'd let them kind of fight it out before trying to take one or the other out. Now, fighting my way through the facility, I was presented into another room where there's a new weapon on the ground. I wasn't sure exactly what it was going to do, but I figured it was probably going to be stronger than some of the weapons I currently had. And I was right. It would take out some of the bigger guys pretty easily, which was great. Now, after dispatching the rest of the enemies down there, I did stumble across the scientist who said that he could get me out of here. And I was about to get back outside, which was great. Only through these revolving doors I needed to go before I was back outside to be fighting my way through anything else that the game was going to present me. Now, while I was outside, I did stumble across this area where we have the helicopter that's going to be attacking us. I wasn't sure how to actually take it down. I figured it was probably one of the newer weapons or maybe the grenade launcher on the SMG, but there was also a bunker here that I had to take out as well. So between the combination of both, it was kind of rough. It did look like the helicopter I could mostly maneuver around, but you do see me die here, and I died quite a few different times before I was able to just kind of take out the helicopter, which you can kind of see here. It took me a while to figure out how to use this gun as well, but we did take out the helicopter. Then all we had to do is worry about that pillbox that was in the corner, but I had already taken that out with some explosives, which was great. So all we had to do is loot and go through the next set of doors. Now the door wasn't actually the way around. I actually ended up having to go into the water, opening up some valves so that I could just walk around in this water or river or whatever it is to continue moving forward. As you can see, I started to save quite frequently at this point within the game because every corner I turned was a new presentation of like something crazy, and it's just how these old games were. You do have to save the game, you have to load, you're probably gonna die, you just kind of have to figure out how the game's gonna throw everything at you. And we make our way over into this area too. And this area, let me tell you, right along with that box of how to jump on top of it, frustrated me to no end because some of these areas that you could walk through these rocks just weren't very clear. And I'm so used to newer games now that just kind of like help you, assist you walk through areas, like they make things glow. There's all this stuff, and this game like really does make you work for it. And again, I'm just gonna save here because, like I said before, I'm not playing around. I'm here to beat the game, and I was not gonna have another setback. Now these are the types of nooks and crannies you just kind of have to crawl around in and just kind of know you have to go into to go to the next area. And there was a few of these little areas here that I struggled. I didn't know that I needed to go between these two tiny little rocks into this crack, or just like crouch under this rock, and it led to a bigger area, which it was really cool once I figured it out. It was frustrating at first, and it really does show you how well the new games do kind of spoil you and like spoon feed you into the game. There's no real struggle anymore, and it's fun to get back to that kind of level of game. Now this area was kind of interesting because it was the second area that we had gone into with mines, and you just kind of have to learn where the mines are before you, you can just walk around in the area. I did learn that you can shoot the area and blow up the mines that way, which was kind of interesting. But this whole little section, it really did frustrate me a little bit. I knew I had to go into that fenced area. I didn't know how to get over there. So it was a little bit of a struggle, especially dodging every mine. Eventually, I just start shooting the mines because I got so frustrated of figuring out where they were. And then I just took a screenshot of where they were, which was kind of interesting to see how many mines were packed in this tiny little area. Now, after you get through that section here, you're presented with this cliffside battle area, which was kind of cool to do. I kept misjudging it, and I came out of here with a very, very little health, as you can see, with 24 health. There was multiple enemies on the cliffside that I just kind of had to slowly crouch around and be able to shoot. Eventually, I was able to take out most of them, but like I said, just having no health most of the time was my biggest issue with this game. And then also with the controls themselves, every once in a while, I would just slowly walk too much and just walk off the edge or something like that. Now, once we got further down, we are actually presented into this room where we first get the rocket launcher, which was pretty exciting. I figured it was going to be, we were going to have like helicopters or the little like plane things or something like that, but boy was I excited when I found more boxes to hit, as they actually had some med packs as well in there. So I was already hurting for health as it is, so this was a nice change of pace. Now a little bit further ahead here, we come out of this pipe, and it's just like this giant battlefield here. We're basically getting shot at by a bunch of different soldiers, and then you also see that there is now a tank. So I was like, oh, okay, that's why we have the rocket launcher. It's time to take out the tank. But my gosh, dude, the tanks take a lot of rockets, grenades, whatever you can really throw at them for explosives, man. They eat it up in this game. So it's a giant ammo sink, which was interesting, because I feel like ammo's always kind of scarce. You could see me saving again because I was not gonna try to retry that again, but see the rockets, I was still learning how they actually work because they're kind of guided. I thought they were just kind of a fire and forget kind of missile, so that was kind of interesting, but man, do these tanks rockets. Now, just shortly after that first tank, we're presented with another tank that fires missiles. It has like a little turret. But the nice thing about this one is you can kind of move around side to side, and it couldn't really hit you too well. You just had to keep moving. I was still struggling to try to find the best way to take these things out, whether it was this big weapon, was it the C4 explosives. It seemed like everything, no matter what you did, they just took a lot of damage. Now moving ahead, I found myself into another building. Now, this one was just kind of outside. It wasn't anything underground at this point, but there was a scientist here, but there was also this giant hallway of death, basically. So I had to try to figure out the best way to keep him alive, but also be able to blow up those so that I could get past them. And it was a little difficult. It took me a few different tries. Eventually, he did come with me. I think he still ends up dying because he doesn't fully come into the room with you, which is a little frustrating. I was just trying to see how many survivors I could really get through the game, but man, these AIs just did not want to follow you half the time. After fighting a few more enemies, I stumbled across this elevator here in a room full of boxes. So again, my box smashing days were upon me. Just avoiding to make sure I don't hit those explosive boxes again. But the nice thing here is we were actually presented with a new weapon that actually doesn't need any ammo. It just slowly reloads over time, which was pretty handy. I started to use this weapon quite a bit. Like I said, it was super handy. You could shoot it around corners and everything else. So it was really cool to see. And after doing some more parkour and fighting additional enemies, I came across this hallway here where you get to shoot on an MG, which was super fun. I didn't realize though, as long as you stayed on the MG, it was like the old games where the enemies just kept spawning. You actually had to move up ahead eventually to make them stop spawning. So I sat here for quite a while shooting these guys, wondering how long they would just keep spawning in. And I mean, they just really kept coming in there, and you just end up having, like I said, to go into that room, and then there's like a giant bouncy pad up there so that you can go to the next area. Now I had enough fun with the jumping pads, and I moved on, and I ended up in this air vent from hell. Let me just tell you, this thing was annoying. These little guys are so hard to hit. I wasn't quite sure how to get them out of there. I was trying everything. I even had the SMG, but I only had one grenade launcher left, which was kind of annoying as well. As you can see, they're super tiny, super hard to hit. They're super quick. And I had to run up this vent and basically just kind of rush it. And I got lucky enough at one attempt, and I finally was able to pass this. But let me tell you, this little area right here was very, very difficult. Now, after we got out of those air vents and we were presented with more little jumping pads, and as you can see, you just kind of like float up here, and we were just navigating into one of the next buildings, and I was not taking any chances. Like I said, I'm saving basically every chance I can get at this point. After a few more saves and loads, we're presented with another guard here, and he's just going to kind of help me out. I did get him to follow with me into this parking garage, and oh, I was not ready for this big dude over here. He was already taking out a bunch of soldiers like they were nothing. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to take him out because I was kind of limited on the ammo that I had for some of my larger weapons. I did have a few little landmines and stuff like that I could place up, but I was struggling in here because he is very quick, he's very powerful, and I didn't have any armor left, and as you can see, I took one hit and I'm almost dead. So it was a lot of kiting him around and trying to figure out where I also needed to go at the same time. Luckily, I was able to find a exit out of there, and I just ran from him at that point. After escaping his clutches, he's still chasing me, I believe, but we ended up on this little tower here where we get to play Missile Command and just kind of launch rockets down upon any target that we choose, which was pretty fun. At one point, the big guy does end up coming out, and we were able to kill him with this as well, so that was pretty interesting. But we did make sure that we had to open up the door. We also had to kind of bomb different areas. I was just kind of playing around with it just to see how much damage I could do. And you can see that big guy had already just followed us into this area. I wasn't quite sure how much further he could actually follow us, but eventually he kind of just gets stuck right here, and then I'm able to target him and just kill him down. Now once everything was blown up and I was able to progress on, we ended up back underground against these stupid fish here. As you can see, I don't know what this thing's called, but let me tell you, it's annoying. He's so quick and he can just deal so much damage, but just trying to hit him with the trank, and it's just a little slow to reload as well. And you can see me just like rapidly shooting him here, and I wasn't sure how many hits it actually took to take him out, so it was a little bit of a struggle. I was always on the lookout for more ammo as well, and I wish you could see him through the water. Now, I don't know if the branded version of Half-Life allows you to see through water, which would have been super helpful. But as you can see, I was trying to use this lip here to kind of see through the water to see if I could target him that way, which it just wasn't working out. It does seem like it's, I think, 6 to 8 different shots to take out this little monster, so I should just remember that moving forward. Now, coming out of this red tunnel, I was presented with another tank and a couple soldiers. Now, these guys were kind of hard. I felt like they just kept lobbing grenades so quickly, and I wasn't seeing them. As you see on the screen, it just like landed right in my lap. It was almost instantaneous, but I did struggle with some of these soldiers. I don't know why. A certain AI, man, they just chuck nades at you instantly. As you can see, there's 2 that come in over here, and it was just like these 2 in particular just kept lobbing them over, and then I just needed to deal with the tank after. Now, after dealing with the tank, I was presented with another room where it was high radiation area. Basically, I was trying to turn into a Ninja Turtle down here, and it was just not working out for me. Luckily, there was just some soldiers here that I had to take out. They went down pretty easily, and I just was able to progress on. And to press on I did until I reached this tank where I wasn't sure if I actually needed to use it or not, but the latch was up and it had a little green control panel, and I was soon presented with the ability to actually shoot the turret. I was also able to shoot this machine gun up here as these guys spawned in. It was another area where I wasn't sure if they were going to continuously spawn in and I needed to move up or not. So I had finally reached another scientist who told me this was the last entrance to the Lambda complex that I needed to go to. He also didn't open the door until everything was destroyed outside, so typically I had to take out everything while everybody just kind of watched me do it. It seemed like a common theme throughout the game. Either the guy with the briefcase was sitting there just kind of watching me, or the scientists were looking at me through a window in their safety as I'm just sitting there battling out my life. But either way, we had progressed through the game, and this guy was going to allow us into the complex. Now, once inside the complex, we are presented with this teleport. Now, I wasn't sure what this actually did at first. I was trying to shoot it, trying to beat it. I wasn't sure if it was just instantly going to kill me as soon as I went through it. And then I quickly learned, yes, it is a teleporter, and there is a second teleporter that it leads me to. So I figured moving on, I am going to have to continuously find these things to continue through the facility. And my speculation was correct. The next area just had multiple little different teleports where you had to kind of learn which one to go through and which ones led to the exit that you actually needed. And as you can see in the middle of that thing, it actually has 2 different teleporters. I wasn't quite aware of that at the beginning. I didn't know that, you could see port 01 or port 02, and then it was a slow learning curve of figuring out which one led to the area I needed to go to. Now, making my way through that area, we were presented with another teleport where we had to sit here and kind of protect the guy opening it for us, as we were going to go through a larger teleport that required a special machine. And as you can see, we go through it and we are instantly just basically knocked out almost, and we see that we're in Zen. Now, this area was very unique, I will say. There's a lot of different floating platforms, a lot of different enemies. I wasn't sure how well ammo was going to be able to be found and stuff like that. Now, this was also another area where I was going to struggle because I was not aware of the logics and the mechanics of the game that allowed me to actually boost jump over to this platform. So as you're going to see here, I just kind of like run off and just die instantly, and it was not my fault. I guess I should have spent more time just trying to figure out all the different game mechanics, but as you can see, it was a struggle for a while until I finally just kind of looked it up. As you can see, I'm looking through different settings, not sure if there's like a crouch jump or something like that. But I probably spent maybe 30 minutes sitting here trying to figure it out before I finally went to the internet and figured out how to jump across. Now, once I was able to jump across, then we are presented with a mini boss kind of guy. It seemed like I was battling him. He was moving to different areas as we continued to battle him. Now, I don't know if he was an actual boss or just a mini boss. He was pretty difficult to me. I was not really sure if I was doing any kind of damage. I was also looking for any kind of ammo that I possibly could, and there was a few areas here and there that you're going to be able to find ammo. At one point, I'm just sitting here on the little bouncy thing, just trying to avoid the little guys. But after enough damage, he did finally go down. Making my way through the alien world, we are presented with another platform jumpy thing. Now, I wasn't quite sure how to navigate this one. I knew I needed to get over to that area where that pillar was. These little blue guys were probably going to carry me, and as you could see, one blew up, so I figured I only had limited time that I could sit on them. And it was a lot of just kind of slowly waiting around to figure out which platform I could jump on, while these guys with the big heads that could shoot at you just kind of spawned in and tried to kill me at the same time. Now, I did take quite a bit of damage here trying to get to each platform, so I was a little nervous that I was going to take too much damage, but finally we did make it to the end. Now, once we got to the new alien world here, we are presented with a lot more enemies, and I knew I must be close to the end. It was interesting. There was a lot of battles. I was also starting to find a little bit more ammo. It wasn't really a lot more ammo, but I was also learning that these pools could actually heal you, which was very, very critical. And there was quite a few of these pools around, which was nice. Especially with the increase in enemies and like little like demi bosses and stuff like that here and there. This was a blessing in disguise. Now, continuously fighting our way through, we ended up at another teleport that ended up taking us to another alien facility, so we weren't so much outside anymore, but now we were inside some sort of alien structure where I was going to have to fight a bunch more alien guys, and I was hoping that ammo would be a little bit easier to come by in here because I was really starting to run low. Now, it seemed like every corner I turned had more and more aliens, and I was starting to learn that these jars, if you broke them open, actually had aliens inside of them as well. And so I was trying to be very careful not to open those. I was looking in every corner for some ammo, health, it just didn't matter. And at this point, I was not finding any of those pools that were going to be able to heal me, so I was hoping to find some medical packs maybe that had spawned in with. Now, just a short while later, we're presented with this boss. Now, this boss probably took me the longest amount of time to figure out. I tried for probably an hour and a half to try to kill this guy. I wasn't quite sure what the procedure was to kill him. I was just slowly shooting rockets at him. He was teleporting me into different areas where I was able to find some more ammo, so I assumed that he was just a bullet sponge at this point. And I was going to have to keep killing him, and as you can see, the gravity is actually a lot lower here, so we had to like crouch, run, jump, do those kind of things up on these platforms to make it up to another teleporter so that we could go back to the boss. And like I said, this boss was difficult. I wasn't aware until the longest time that I needed to take out the crystals around him and then try to shoot him in his head, particularly because it starts to open up and he takes more damage. So I'm going to cut to that real quick and you guys can see me just struggle with this part, but oh man, this was a fight. It definitely had that vibe of once you were completed it, you felt like you accomplished something, but I feel like games don't typically have this kind of stuff anymore. Now you're going to see me here, and I was trying to take out the crystals here the last few after I realized that they could break. I was also using this pillar here to dodge his attacks, which was super handy, especially not getting teleported constantly. If you're on the ground, this little green orb like just heat seeks you basically, and as you can see, I'm just trying to jump around him. He's jumping up. I'm also trying to time it perfectly so that I go back into the pool. I'm able to heal up because he does a ton of different damage. But I was eventually able to blow up those crystals and kind of open his head, as you're going to see here. Now you can see his head starting to pop open here. It's just slowly splitting open, and then boom, it's open like that. Now I knew I was making some progress. I really did not want to look up how to do this. I was just trying everything under the sun to try to get it done. Eventually I was able to jump up, and I think I had to reload at some point and able to lob a grenade into his head and actually kill him. But man, was this a tough boss fight. I will say it was one of those where you feel accomplished once it's done. Now here's the boss going supernova basically. I was rushing to save the game before something bad happened and I was going to have to restart it. As you can see, the little guys were starting to spawn back in. I was pretty low ammo, so I wasn't able to take them out. Next, we're presented with the administrator. Now we're sitting on an alien elevator, basically. He has some weird lisps, so I feel like he's like part alien, part human or something like that. But basically, he's telling us that he's relieved us from our weapons, which is a bummer. But we've done enough that we've actually earned the suit. So I guess we have that to look forward to. And we continuously teleport around to kind of see different areas. Now, I don't know if he's doing the teleporting or what. Maybe his suitcase allows him to teleport. I don't know. I am hoping that Half-Life 2 does explain some of this a little bit better. But as we continuously teleport around, he's basically saying that they have more work for me to do, that
You
they're
prove
impressed by the
yourself a
work that I've
decisive man,
previously
so I
done
don't
as
expect you'll
well,
have any
and
trouble
that his
deciding what to
employers
do.
think that I would be
If you're
perfect for a new
interested,
job.
just step
So
into
it's
the
going to end
portal and
here
I will
with
take
us
that
teleporting
as a
back onto a
yes.
train where he's either going to give me the
Otherwise,
ability
well,
to never win a fight or
I
take
can
the
offer
job
you a
itself
battle you
and
have
go
no
through the
chance
portal.
of
So, in my
winning.
conclusion, I'm
Rather an
just going to jump through the portal.
anticlimax,
There's a
actually,
second
would you
game,
just
so I might
say.
as well just take full advantage of that because I'm going to be hired and I'm going to take out some more alien scum. Now, for my overall
Time
impressions
to
of the game,
choose.
this was a pretty interesting game to come into in 2025. Like I said, this game is
Wisely
super
done,
old at this
Mr.
point.
Freeman.
I
I
feel like
hate to
there
see
is a
you hopping
nostalgia
ahead.
factor here that make people think this is the greatest game of all time. I definitely could see how that was in the case a long time ago. Now, never having played it a long time ago, it does kick up those nostalgia factors to me. I do see it. It was fun to play that. It was kind of frustrating to go back to a game that is like so difficult that doesn't really hold your hand anymore. At that point, it was enough to kind of try to pull my hair out at a few points, especially that stupid box, man. That box made me feel like an idiot. But either way, it was a lot of fun. I am excited to try to play the second one as well. I do hope that the characters are a little bit more memorable. I feel like this one, it's just, oh, there's a security guy, there's a scientist. I think they do say their names, but it's so infrequently and so little that I just could not remember some of the names of the characters. I do know that there is still a security guard that owes me a beer. I don't know if that guy died or not, so that would be kind of interesting to see if he's in the second game. Other than that, I do think this was a great game. It was a lot of fun to actually finally get the time to go and play through it. Now I'm excited to play the second one. I'm definitely able to see how this one needed a kind of a facelift with the remaster. So maybe at some point I might go back through and actually play the remastered version just to see the differences. Maybe there's a little bit more detail that I was missing that I would pick up on this, but I think I'm gonna head over to the second Half-Life after this and just pick it up and just continue on with the story to see what happens. Now, this was a new format for me, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I will continuously try to make this better, a little bit more entertaining. This was my first attempt at it. But like I said, I think I'm going to start doing a little bit more playthroughs of different games, especially older games that I've just never played, like Half-Life. Like, who hasn't played Half-Life? Apparently, not a lot of people. So you get to watch me struggle through these kind of games. Other than that, you'll probably still continuously see me put out guides here and there, especially for games like RuneScape and other ones that might come out here shortly. So just be on the lookout for those. If you like the video, think about liking, commenting, and subscribing down below. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.